All right, so welcome to our final week of On Your Own, where we've talked about friendships, exploring the friendships that you've had over the last few weeks. But as we wrap up the series, we have one more idea to discuss, and that is what happens when friendships break down and is tossed aside. Are our relationships done then? That's what we are going to figure out today. So, turning a broken friendship into something beautiful reminds me of these artists who they find these, in the nicest way possible, pieces of trash, you would say, or pieces that don't really have meaning to it anymore. It's just kind of thrown off to the side. And they build things from nothing into amazing art. Like, the example it gave me in here was, how many of you watch fashion shows? None? I didn't. There's one, which is why I didn't use this example. But they sometimes take pieces of fabric that are just little pieces of it, and they make something like a dress or a shirt or whatever it is to make it look beautiful. They take these broken pieces and make it into something nice, which is kind of like our friendships. But I love it when game shows create fun challenges with recycled materials. It helps remind us that nothing is beyond repair, including our friendships. There's always a way for broken and discarded items to enjoy another chance. This is a great reminder for the fashion shows, for our friendships, but how do you repair a friendship that seems to be in shambles? Is it even worth it? I don't know. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. But the reality is that occasionally our friends hurt us, and we hurt our friends too. And we don't mean to, but it does happen, one way or another. But we want to support and care for each other, but sometimes it feels like it still falls apart. There's this game show that I'm stuck watching now. It's called Traitors. It's on Peacock. It's a great show. But in this show, everyone, I don't even know how many people started this season, but all of them are working towards one cause, and that's winning money. They play these challenges to win the money, but after that, there's these things that are called traitors. And their goal is to pretty much sabotage, get other people voted out so they can win the money at the end. It's one of my favorite shows. It's entertaining. Some language is used that's unnecessary. But again, their goal as traitors is to get the other people, the faithfuls, voted out. They're there to sabotage the game in a way. And the problem in game shows like this is when people are constantly looking for sabotage, it's impossible for relationships to improve. These traitors are building their friendship up with these faithfuls so they can trust them and be like, I'm not a traitor. And then at the end of the day, they were the entire time. It breaks some hearts. But if someone has hurt you and you feel betrayed and they betrayed your trust, learning to forgive them feels unimaginable. I've been in the same boat. I'm sure I was the other person on that side as well, where I was the bad guy at the end of the day. But what does it look like to heal a friendship when trust has been broken or the relationship has been undermined? So we're going to look at two stories from the Bible that shows us how God can help us pick up the pieces of a broken friendship. The Gospel of Luke contains one of Jesus' most famous but difficult teachings of Jesus. In this section we're about to read, Jesus talks about living with healthy relationships between God and others. And he helps us navigate complicated relationships that might be antagonistic, broken, or seemingly unreconcilable. So here's what it says in Luke chapter 6, verses 32 through 36. It says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. So Jesus didn't hold anything back there. He tells us exactly what we're supposed to do. Because if we lend things to people, but we expect repayment, well, Jesus says, so do the sinners. So even the people who don't even follow me or love me do the same exact thing. Sinners show love to other people, but we're expected to love differently. Jesus didn't hold back to tell us exactly what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to love like him and love our enemies. When there is hatred or contempt in the mix, the answer is still love. Jesus told the crowd that God's love and mercy extended to ungrateful and wicked people, and so should our love. The task seems impossible, but Jesus mentioned a few tangible ways to live out his love. First, do good to your enemies. Don't hold back. Extend kindness and grace to them. This doesn't mean putting yourself in dangerous and vulnerable or unhealthy relationships, but compassion should be our driving force rather than aggression. Second, give without expecting anything back. This is like to loving others to who may not love you. Give freely without expecting equal payment or a quick fix. Occasionally we give strings attached, meaning we give with conditions, and when those conditions aren't met, we may end up disappointed or hurt again. Jesus said to give out of the endless supply of goodness and generosity God gives you, and leave it at that. You belong with God no matter how they respond. And last, be merciful just as God is merciful. The Greek word we translate to merciful can also be translated into compassionate. So Jesus asked his followers to be compassionate towards people suffering in the same way God freely offers compassion to you when you're hurting. This way, the world will have more compassionate people doing God's work in every situation. So God gives us those three things. Do good to your enemies, give without expecting anything back, and be merciful just as God has been merciful to you. So what is remarkable is Jesus didn't teach this. He lived it out. He showed us exactly how it was supposed to be. He lived 33 years, and really, at the end of the day, his final year, year 33, he died on the cross, and he did exactly those three things. He did good to his enemies. He gave without expecting anything back, and then he was merciful, just as his Father, God, told him to be merciful. Humans routinely suffer because of broken relationships, destructive habits, and harmful selfishness. And still, Jesus laid down his life for all of us. His sacrificial love restored and healed relationships between even those who betrayed him. We can't love our enemies like our own. But because we have experienced the love of Jesus, we can ask Jesus to help us love those who've hurt us. And that can be hard. Trust me. You can ask the adult leaders in the room. That is one of the hardest things to do, even now. So it doesn't go away. But we have to have compassion for them and where their suffering may come from. We can ask Jesus to help us be merciful in ways that allow the healing process to begin. So in the first book of the Bible, which is what? All right, we'll try this again. It's Bible trivia, and most of you would have gotten the question wrong. So the first book of the Bible is? Thank you, guys. But we see the compassion played out. In Genesis 25, a story begins with twin brothers, Jacob and Esau. What a name. When I think of an Esau, I think of the thing that holds the boards up, but I think that's what it's called, right? Esau, same thing, right? Thanks, Jojo. That was you that answered it, right? That's why you're here. That's why I need you. Thanks for being my sidekick today. But I've lost my place. But the brothers couldn't be any more different. Wow. Okay, guys, lack of sleep, run retreat really got me. But they couldn't be more different. Jacob liked staying at home, cooking, and hanging out with his mom, while his brother Esau was a scruffy, gruffy guy who loved to hunt and spend time outside. How many of you are the ones that like to stay at home and cook or just spend time with your parents, your family? Now, how many of you like to go outside and hunt? Spend time outside. That is not me. I don't enjoy the outdoors by any means. I'm a homebody, for sure. So those of you who like to be outside, bless you. Thank you. But Jacob would choose to watch a show like Iron Chef or Master Chef, probably anything with Gordon Ramsay, because in my personal opinion, he's the best one out there. Just don't get on his bad side. Esau, his older brother, would have enjoyed the show kind of like Survivor. He liked to be outdoors. You know, sometimes you got to hunt for your food out there as well. That's just not a show you'd ever catch me on. But Esau was older by just minutes. And he would receive the first son inheritance, which is double what his younger siblings would receive. That's just how it worked back in the day. And this was called the birthright. And it was a big deal in his culture. Jacob was constantly trying to figure out a way to get his brother's birthright. One day, Esau came home from hunting and was super hungry, as anybody would be probably. Jacob had been making stew, and so he told Esau, "Turn over your birthright, and you can eat what I've cooked." Esau agreed, and he was so hungry, which began a long resentment between the two brothers. Jacob's like, I will give you this food, the stew that you're smelling that makes you so hungry, as long as you give me your birthright. Even though you were born first, I want it. And that caused resentment between the two brothers. And it didn't just last, a few weeks, a few days, a few years. It lasted their entire lives. But years later, Jacob stole from Esau again. So it didn't just happen once. That happened a second time. This time, their father Isaac was blind, so Jacob took advantage of his limitations by acting and dressing like his brother, Esau. But Jacob covered himself in animal fur and fooled his father into giving God's vision and blessing, which was intended for Esau. So he stole Esau's birthright and God's vision and blessing because he took advantage of his father's blindness. This deception made Esau so angry that Jacob ran for his life. He didn't stick around to see what was going to happen. He's like, "Peace out, bro. I'm gone." But they didn't see each other for years. So can you imagine what Jacob would be thinking? I bet Jacob was terrified because he's like, when is Esau going to come at me? So not only is he's like, oh no, but how many of you do something wrong or wrong someone and you're like, are they going to get me back? Or when you play a joke on someone harmfully. I do that at work all the time with some of my coworkers. One of the times I scared one of my coworkers. She goes, "I'm going to crawl on the floor and scare you like you just did me." And I was like, So I kept working on my computer kind of like this. And occasionally I hear noise and I look back to see if she was actually going to be crawling on the floor. Thankfully, she never did. But you do something like that and you're always afraid someone's going to come up behind you and do the same thing or even worse. And that's exactly what Jacob was feeling when he did all those things to Esau. So we're going to read Genesis 33 verses 1 through 11. And here is what it says. Jacob looked up and there was Esau. Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two female servants. He put the female servant and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the woman and the children. Who are these with you? He asked. He goes on to say, Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all of these flocks and herds I met?" "To your favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." "No, please," Jacob said. "I have found favor in your eyes. Accept these gifts from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the presents I have brought to you. For God has been gracious to me. I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. So Jacob comes They finally meet, and Jacob's afraid of what Esau's going to do. So he brings all these gifts to make it better. How many of us do it even today where we're like, I hurt someone. You know what? I'm going to buy their favorite candy, or I'm going to get them a drink, or I'm going to do something to make things better, to make it hurt less. At the end of the day, Esau was probably still hurt by what Jacob did. But I don't want to focus on Jacob's inability to change or to be trustworthy. They make amends, they work it out, but that's not the end of the story, unfortunately. Jacob was still fearful and unsure about his brother's intention, so he immediately after this, Jacob deceived Esau again. Third time's the charm, right? But Esau experienced the healing that he needed in his own life. He didn't need Jacob to change his ways or live differently. Instead, Esau reconciled with his brother and fixed what was broken. Esau went up to his brother and hugged him because he missed him. At the end of the day, that's still blood, that's still family. Esau's change of heart didn't require Jacob to do anything differently. He chose to forgive him and let go of the hurt, the anger, and the other feelings that he had to go on. So you might be thinking, great, but where's the restoration? Where's the happy ending? Where's the healing? Honestly, not every relationship will be healed back to where it was before the damage was done. And the Bible is realistic about this. They restored the relationship, but that didn't mean that they became best friends. They decided it was best to go their separate ways, but no longer harbor resentment for what happened. Sometimes setting boundaries and letting people go in different directions is okay. Esau was able to repair what he could, and it takes two people to heal a relationship entirely. Walking away can be part of the love and healing that we're looking for. Taking a step towards forgiveness is moving towards the healing God wants for us. When we release people from their burdens they've created in our lives, we allow God to heal our heart, whether they change or not. Healing might look like letting go of some of our anger, which we all store up at times. I'm guilty of it more often than I like to admit. But first, we need to move forward. God desires healthy relationships for everyone, so we know God will be there for us to help us pick up the pieces from any damaged relationships, even if the result doesn't look like what we imagined. God can help repair broken friendships. God can help repair broken friendships. I don't know where you are in middle school right now. I don't know if you guys are struggling with broken friendships, but you're going to at some point, one way or another. You have people around you that will help you pick up the pieces if you need it, or help point you in the right direction. But at the end of the day, God can fix those. God can help. So, here are a few steps in the healing journey that can be done. So the first, and these aren't going to be easy, the first one is name the hurt. Often we feel like we have to stuff down our hurt. We buy the lie that we are weak if we acknowledge sadness or anger. But if we name what we're feeling, we can begin to heal from it. And this is more than just knowing what you're feeling. It is also about sharing with someone who can help you. This could be a trusted friend, a therapist, a leader, or even possibly the person that hurt you. Talk to them. Unless it's unhealthy, it's not good, then don't. But talk to someone. Name the hurt. Second, you have to own your part in the brokenness. Sometimes we don't realize how maybe we contributed to a friendship falling apart. Take some time to consider how you have contributed to breaking the relationship or the friendship. To be clear, that doesn't excuse or mean you deserve any harm that has come your way. But as you do this, ask God to help you not be defensive, but teachable. To be open about how you can grow and contribute to repairing the relationships if that's what's best. It may not be what's best, but you still have to own your part. Last but not least, let go of what you can control. If we have taken the steps to name our pain and our own actions, but our friend hasn't done the same, repairing the friendship may not be possible. But instead of trying to force healing or losing ourselves, we may need to let go. Loving your enemies doesn't mean you need to stick out relationships with people who exhibit harmful, disrespectful, or abusive behavior. That's not what I'm trying to say here. If someone has wronged you significantly, don't keep that to yourself. Please talk to a trusted adult about how someone has or is mistreating you. Recognize it when it's time to walk away. When it's time to walk away, it's a sign of health, of being one of the most loving things you can do. It may be hard. That might be the best choice for you. So in the book of Luke, we hear one of the most famous and challenging teachings from Jesus. And I would have liked it if Jesus said, love your enemies when it's convenient for me. I don't want to, okay? It's not very convenient for me right now. I'm struggling with other things. I don't want to love them right now. Instead, he said this, without any qualifications, love your enemies. Jesus taught his followers how to live differently in a world. He wanted them to prayerfully approach relationships in a way that he tried to repair what was broken, whether it was with a friend or with an enemy. So as we end this series, I hope that you see that God wants you to have meaningful and healthy friendships, relationships where God's words can help your friendships grow, communities where your friends can help your faith grow, and times when God can help us choose our friends wisely, and even when things fall apart, and trust that God can help repair broken relationships. God desires community for everyone following Jesus rather than going through your life alone. God tells us we can't go through this life alone. You need friends. You need that community because community is key. You may not see it now as middle schoolers, but I could tell you as you get older, you see how important community truly is, how important your friends truly are, and how important it is to really pick your friends wisely. So that's my prayer for you guys as you guys grow. Keep going throughout this thing called life. You're going to need it. I'm going to pray, and you guys will be dismissed to your small group.